Well, for months, the world's attention has been fixed on the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran has used military pressure to sharply restrict traffic through one of the most important energy routes on Earth. Roughly 1/5 of the world's oil and gas normally moves through Hormuz in peacetime, so its effective closure or disruption has already shaken energy markets and trade routes. And now Tehran and its allies are signaling that Bab El-Mandeb, which is also called the Gate of Tears, linking the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, could be next. In fact, Iranian officials and commanders close to the leadership have warned that they view Bab El-Mandeb in the same way as Hormuz, suggesting that pressure on Israel and United States over Gaza and Lebanon could extend to this second choke point. So as Iran threatens to widen its maritime pressure campaign beyond the Strait of Hormuz, today in this edition of From the News Desk, we will talk about why Bab El-Mandeb Strait matters so much and what happens if this very strait is also disrupted. Bab El-Mandeb sits between Yemen on the one side and Djibouti and Eritrea on the other, connecting the Red Sea and Suez Canal to the Indian Ocean, only about 29 to 32 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Well, it restricts traffic to just a couple of shipping lanes, making it very easy to threaten or disrupt. And around 12% of global trade and a significant share of world containers traffic passes through the Red Sea and Bab El-Mandeb. The strait also carries roughly 4 million barrels of crude oil per day and is also a key route for refined products heading from the Gulf towards Europe and North America. In fact, Iran-backed Houthis forces in Yemen already have the ability to disrupt shipping there, and they have a record of attacking or threatening vessels in the Red Sea since the start of the Gaza war back in 2023. And this is why Iran's recent rhetoric alarms governments and markets. If Hormuz and Bab El-Mandeb were both effectively shut, analysts estimate that a quarter or more of the world's energy supply and a major slice of global trade would be impacted at once. Now, Tehran is not treating Bab El-Mandeb as an isolated lever. It is tying it directly to the wider axis of resistance campaign that spans Gaza, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and most importantly, Yemen. Remember earlier, Ali Akbar, a powerful advisor to Iran's supreme leader, said the resistance front views Bab El-Mandeb the same way it views Hormuz, warning that global energy and trade flows can be disrupted with a single move. On the other hand, Ismail Qani, the commander of IRGC's Quds force, has gone further and explicitly linked the status of Bab El-Mandeb to the war in Gaza and Lebanon. In fact, he also warned that continued Israeli operation in those arenas, backed by the United States, could prompt Iran-aligned groups to open new fronts and to equalize traffic conditions in Bab El-Mandeb and Hormuz, implying that disruption in one strait could be minor in the other one. Well, in simpler words, Iranian officials are signaling a conditional threat. If Israel keeps up pressure on Hezbollah in Lebanon and on Hamas in Gaza, the Red Sea route may no longer be safe. In fact, earlier US authorities have already issued advisories warning that Houthi militias backed by Iran could intensify missile and drone attacks on vessels in and around Bab El-Mandeb. Now here comes the most interesting part. After an angry phone call from US President Donald Trump to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel has pulled back from plan for a major strike on Beirut and agreed, at least for now, to dial down its offensive in Lebanon. Well, Trump publicly claimed that he persuaded Netanyahu to turn his troops around and that through intermediaries, he also secured a commitment from Hezbollah that all shooting will stop. In fact, Lebanese officials and the Lebanese embassy in Washington say Hezbollah has accepted this very plan in principle, and new rounds of indirect talks are scheduled to try to turn this pause into something far more durable. But here comes the key question. For how long will this Trump-brokered calm hold? Well, if the truce collapses and Israel again moves towards large-scale operations in Lebanon, Iran will definitely face stronger pressure from its own hardliners and allied groups to answer on multiple fronts. And in that very scenario, Tehran could use its partners around Bab El-Mandeb to step up attacks on shipping or to partially block the strait, mirroring its strategy in the Strait of Hormuz and turning a renewed Hezbollah war into a direct shock to a global trade and energy flows. Well, obviously the impact would be felt far beyond the Middle East. Tanker and container ships would again divert around the Cape of Good Hope, adding weeks of journeys and sharply raising fuel, insurance and shipping costs as they did during previous Houthi attack waves in 2024 and 2025. Well, obviously energy prices could spike, supply chains would be strained from Asia to Europe, and any fragile global economy recovery would come under severe and new pressure. And this is precisely why diplomats are racing not only to stabilize the Lebanon front, but also to lock in secure navigation in both Hormuz and Bab al-Mandeb. Also, the fear in many capitals is very clear. If the ceasefire fails and Iran turns threat into action at another choke point, the next phase of Gaza and Lebanon conflicts will be fought not just with rockets and airstrikes, but through the arteries of global trade itself. Well, with that, it's a wrap on today's edition of From the News Desk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm Yash Goyal signing off for Times Now Digital. For more such video, keep watching this space.